What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. The must-own running backs for the 2019 fantasy football season. I'm pumped about this list. There's some really good names on it, some guys that I'm really excited to talk about. So how about this? Our new goal is 600 likes. I asked for 400 last time, and you guys crushed it. So how about we shoot for 600 likes this time around? And let's start things off with the stat of the day. Yesterday's answer was Aaron Rodgers, and the winner was Quintavious Bundridge. Today's stat, over the second half of last season, which I deemed as weeks 9 on, so week 9 on last season, among running backs with at least 30 carries, who had the most evaded tackles per carry? So back half of last season, running backs with at least 30 carries, who had the most evaded tackles per carry? Before we start, a reminder that you can download my rankings and my projections for the upcoming season by going over to our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. I'm always updating the rankings and the projections to make them as accurate as possible. So with that, let's start talking about some running backs. The first running back we're going to talk about is David Johnson. Cliff Kingsbury wants to set the record for the most plays per game this season, and they added a quarterback that fits them perfectly. He fits this pace-up offense perfectly. Remember last season. Last season was deemed as a disappointment for David Johnson. Everyone who drafted him was like, I didn't get exactly what I was hoping for. He still finished as the running back 9 when they were the worst offense in the league, where they struggled to score touchdowns, where they refused to give the ball to DJ in space and in the passing game. Every time DJ touched the ball last season, it was up the gut, up the gut. It was horrible to watch. But not only looking at how they're going to use David Johnson, it's just this offense is going to score more points this season. And that's huge for David Johnson because he is a big touchdown scorer. You guys hear all the time I talk about how touchdowns have high variance. Not with all players. You look at Ezekiel Elliott, you look at guys like Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, David Johnson. These guys don't have high touchdown variance. They're going to score touchdowns because they're going to be very heavily involved in the passing game and the rushing game when they get in close. The ball's at the 4-yard line. They're giving the ball to David Johnson. They're going to feed him in the red zone. So I am all in on David Johnson this season. You guys, if you watched my top 10 projections video where I went over what 10 players had the highest projections right now at least, David Johnson has the 3rd highest projection among running backs. And honestly, an injury is the only way that he doesn't finish in the top 5. With the amount of volume he's going to receive, top 5. He's going to finish in the top 5 if he doesn't get hurt. I have him ranked 4th behind Saquon, Kamara, and Christian McCaffrey. If you want to put him 5th, if you want to throw Zeke ahead of him as well, I'm fine with that. I think this entire top 5 is more of a personal preference, but he's going to smash this season. So I would try and get as much of him as you possibly can. Another guy that I'm going to try and get in every league possible is Damien Williams. There are some people who are skeptical with this, but I am all in. Andy Reid has produced a running back 1 for fantasy in 12 of his 20 seasons as head coach. If you look at the 5 starts last season, you remember Kareem Hunt was the starter for most of the season. Then they kind of transitioned to more of Spencer Ware, and then Spencer Ware got hurt. So now we're looking at Damien Williams. Lead back for 5 starts last season. He averaged 114 yards and 2.2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, those touchdowns are going to come down. I'm not expecting 2.2 touchdowns a game over a full season. But that would have been the number 1 running back over a full season. That's the kind of production you're going to receive if you are the Chiefs' starting running back. And honestly, take a look at their offense. You have Kelsey. You have Watkins, who might start the season healthy, but let's be honest, he's never been healthy. Then it's really a bunch of question marks behind that. It's a bunch of unproven talent or talent that we know doesn't have any sort of real upside. So he's going to be the second option. I mean, realistically, it's going to be Kelsey, and then it's going to be Damien Williams as that second option. Yes, Watkins is going to be great as a receiver while he's healthy, but Damien Williams will be the second option in a Patrick Mahomes-led offense. The only possible way that he does not finish as a running back 1 is if he is hurt for multiple weeks. I bet you he finishes as a running back 1 even if he's out for 2 weeks. He sprains his ankle, he's out for 2 weeks, comes back after that. I bet you he still ends up as running back 1. Right now, he's my 7th highest projected running back and also 7th in my ranking. That's 5 spots above both ECR and ADP. And that's why you'll be able to get him in a lot of leagues. I have him ranked very highly. Anywhere in the second round, you can take him. So if you're drafting at the turn, you're going to be able to get him. You're drafting in the middle of the first round, you're probably going to be able to get him in the middle of the second round. So you guys should have a lot of Damien Williams because that entire mid to early second round, it's possible to get him. Please do not be scared by his limited work as a starter. If he is at the top of the depth chart in week 1, he is going to win leagues. Next on the list is someone I'm going to talk about very briefly because I just talked about him yesterday, is Kenyan Drake. And all I want to reiterate is that he is a guy who produces in so many different ways that he can succeed in fantasy even in a bad offense. We always try and avoid bad offenses for the purposes of drafting a running back in fantasy because bad offenses lead to less touchdowns and they just lead to less positive game scripts. Drake is a guy that can produce in any game script, and he's a guy who produced last season even in a terrible offense. He was a running back 17 last season. It was a horrible offense. He got like 7.5 carries per game. They just didn't use him, and he still produced for fantasy. I expect him to see more production this season. I expect the offense to be a little bit better this season. All positives for Kenyan Drake, so I have him well above his ADP and his ECR. So I like him as well. Latavius Murray, another guy I really like. Mark Ingram finished as the running back 8 and the running back 26 in fantasy points per game over the last 2 seasons. And those are both seasons where Kamara finished in the top 4 overall. So not points per game. Kamara finished in the top 4 overall in both those seasons, and Ingram was still the running back 8 and the running back 26 in points per game. So those are seasons where Kamara is fully healthy. He doesn't miss any games due to injury. I believe he didn't play in week 17 last season just because they had locked everything up and they just didn't want him to get hurt for the playoffs. Good move. But that was the only game that he's missed over the past 2 seasons. And Ingram still put up good numbers as the backup. And I cannot stress this enough. Latavius Murray was signed as the Ingram replacement. That is his job. His job is to do whatever Mark Ingram was doing. They're going to have the exact same role. His job is to ease the workload of Alvin Kamara. He's going to be used in some goal line. He's going to be used between the 20s, and he's going to get some receptions and some third down work. The Saints do not want Kamara to get 20 carries and 8 targets a game. That is not what they want. They want to give Kamara in that like 13 to 14 carries and around 6 to 8 targets, kind of depending on the game script. They're okay giving him 10, 12, 13 targets in games they need to catch up in. But what they don't want is those games to also give him 20, 21 carries. That's not what they want. So Latavius Murray is going to get in that like 9 to 11, kind of averaging in that 10 carry range. That's kind of where he's going to be at each game. And about 2 to 3 targets a game. That's what you're going to get from Latavius Murray. And while that isn't worth a late 7th or early 8th round ADP on most teams, it is with the Saints. With how good they are on offense, how many touchdowns that's going to come with, it is worth that sort of ADP. So assuming Kamara stays healthy all season, Latavius Murray will be worth his ADP. Then, what if something happens to Kamara? What if he doesn't stay healthy for the full year? Well, now Latavius Murray is instantly a running back 1. And that's what I look for in these later picks. Really, once the 6th round hits, I want, okay, if something goes their way, are they able to produce league-winning numbers? The answer is yes for Latavius Murray. None of the players being drafted around him have as much upside as Latavius Murray has if something were to happen to the lead back. And he still comes with a nice floor even if Kamara stays perfectly healthy all season. So I have him ranked as the running back 26. That's 6 spots above ECR and 12 spots above ADP. So I really like him, and I've been getting him in a lot of mock drafts. The next guy is Rashaad Penny, and that might scare some of you, thinking back to a pretty disappointing rookie season from an overall standpoint, just because he didn't receive the volume that we thought he was going to receive when they took him in the first round. But honestly, it's a discount. In the late 7th round, he's coming at a discount. He was their first round pick last season, and the departure of Mike Davis really helps him. So he's going to be in line for a good workload this season. The Seahawks love Chris Carson. I will not deny that. They love Chris Carson because Chris Carson is a really good running back. But they also love running the football. And there's really plenty of opportunity to go around on the Seattle Seahawks offense. Then you look, okay, well, what did he do? With the volume he had last season, what did he do if we were to extrapolate that out to a full season? Penny averaged just under 5 yards per carry as a rookie last season. He had 3.4 yards per carry after contact, which ranked 5th among running backs with at least 75 carries. And he also had 0.39 fantasy points per snap, which is the exact same number that Chris Carson had. And it's only 0.01 points per snap less than Marlon Mack and Christian McCaffrey. So he produced. When the dude was on the field last season, he was good. You know, he got a bad rap coming into the league, and a lot of it was due to his receiving ability, but he got kind of a bad rap for being taken in the first round. And while I never recommend teams actually take running backs in the first round, they did. So they valued Rashaad Penny coming right into the league. And I think they're going to use him this season. Seattle ran the ball the second most times in the league last season at 32.9 attempts per game. And the departure of Mike Davis leaves 112 carries and 34 receptions. And we need to think about what we're doing with Latavius Murray. Think about the upside. Chris Carson had 247 carries last season. That's a lot. 250 is like a really good number of carries. And he's had injury issues in the past. And he just had a minor procedure on his knee. Like this, Chris Carson has not stayed healthy over his, albeit short, over his career getting the workload. Like he just has not stayed healthy. If Chris Carson were to go down, Penny is a fringe running back 1. I don't know exactly what he would finish, but assuming Chris Carson wasn't on the Seahawks, let's just put him on a different team. Where do you think Rashaad Penny is being drafted this season? It's probably the late second to early third round, right? I mean, that's where he would go with the amount of carries that he would receive. So getting him in the late 7th round is a pretty good value because he's still going to push for low end running back 2 numbers, even with Carson healthy. But he's being drafted as a low end running back 3 and a high end running back 4. You know, you have to take that sort of value when it presents itself. So I love Rashaad Penny. And another guy I love is Ronald Jones. And Ronald Jones is going in the 10th round right now. He's probably the safest 10th round running back you can find. You know, think about how safe 10th round picks are. I mean, realistically, we're only shooting for upside. We don't care about safety. But it's nice to know we're getting a starting running back in the 10th round. You know, because Peyton Barber was terrible last season. We knew he was going to be a starter, which is why he was worth taking where he was. And he honestly returned the exact same value where he was drafted, but he wasn't good. He was just given a ton of work, and that's why he produced. But if you look at what teams do in the offseason, you can kind of get a picture of how they value players, right? Because news comes out during the offseason. Like right now, you're going to hear that every team loves everyone, right? That's what you're going to hear. You're not going to hear bad news about any player because it's just all cherry right now. But what you do know is when a team doesn't sign anyone in free agency, well, anyone real. I mean, Andre Ellington was signed, but let's be honest. Anyone with a legitimate chance to take work, and they don't draft a running back, that says something about their current roster, that they're not concerned. And they're definitely concerned about Peyton Barber's pathetic showing last season, so it's got to be Ronald Jones. That's the only rational conclusion you can draw from Barber being terrible, but then not going out in free agency, not going out in the draft. The only thing that can screw this up is if they trade for Duke Johnson, which is a legitimate chance. There is a real possibility that they trade for Duke Johnson, because honestly, they probably should, because Duke Johnson wants out of Cleveland. He's a really good running back, and he would help this team. Now, I don't think Duke Johnson would be, the every down back. They would probably still use Ronald Jones early, and then they'd bring in Duke Johnson as a third down back. But if they don't do that, Ronald Jones is set up to smash his ADP right now. They took him in the 2nd round last season because they believed in his talent. And he was very, very young coming into the league. So this isn't like an old rookie that just got a year older. No, he's really, really young. He's about to turn 22. So he's still really young in his career. And I know that people question his talent after last season, but the dude only had 23 carries. You're just getting into the league. You've got this horrible offensive line. Your offense isn't doing anything to help you out, and you barely get any opportunity. What do you expect from him? So this season, I expect them to be better at running the football. I expect him to get more opportunities. And the dude's at the top of the depth chart. So you're getting a starting running back in the 10th round. So he would have to be horrible to not pay off his current ADP, which is possible. Yes, I understand that it's possible. He's just not that good of a running back, but I doubt it. I really do doubt that he's as bad as we saw last season. So I'm definitely drafting Ronald Jones. And the last player on this list, one that I am very excited about as a New England Patriots fan, is Damien Harris. Everybody in the world wants to talk about Todd Gurley's knees, right? That is all you hear. What's up with Todd Gurley's knees? But no one wants to talk about Sonny Michel's knees. And he's also been missing at minicamp due to knee issues. We know that he's suffered 3 separate knee strains and a torn ACL, and Sports Injury Predictor has him with the second highest odds among running backs to miss time due to an injury. He's right there with Gurley with being risky. And you say, well, yeah, but Henderson's going to crush if Gurley goes down. Okay, you don't think Damien Harris is going to crush if Sonny Michel goes down? Because he's the immediate backup for the early down work in New England, and he should be viewed the same way as Henderson. Yet Henderson is creeping into the 4th round, while Harris is still available in the 13th and 14th round. You know, he is going to be the lead back in New England, and that's proved massively successful in fantasy. Go back and look at the success that the lead back in New England has had over the last 5 or 6 seasons. And it's never been consistent. You know, year over year, it's a different player, but whoever it's been, they have honestly won leagues in fantasy. So you're getting this guy as a throwaway pick, 13th, 14th round. I mean, how many of your 13th and 14th round picks do you really think you're going to keep? In a normal draft, it's 16 rounds, and you're taking in the 15th and the 16th, you're taking your kicker and your defense, or maybe it's a 15 rounds and you don't have a kicker. This is your last skill position player. Realistically, this is a player that you're shooting for upside, and if there's a really nice free agent in week 1, you're just dropping this pick and picking that guy up. But Harris comes with massive upside. So in a throwaway pick, you can't do any better than Damien Harris. And the Patriots believe in him, showing how much draft capital they put in the guy. He's genuinely one of the best picks in the draft right now. And that concludes the list. That concludes the must-own running backs for the 2019 fantasy football season. One last reminder to head on over to our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. Check out my rankings, check out my projections, check out all the other content that we have for you guys. And remember our goal. We had a goal, 600 likes on this video. That would be epic. You guys crushed it last time. Let's see if we can do it again. But that is the end of this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about we hit that like button? How about we subscribe if we are new? And thanks for watching.